You are listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. I'm Kyle Bryant.
And I'm Sean Baumsart. Together, we're navigating life with disability. All right, welcome back to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This is episode number 26. You know what's crazy about number 26,
What's
Kyle?
that? I'm really interested in hearing this.
When we sat down last year and mapped out what we're doing and what our goals are, the idea was 26 episodes in 1 year, you know, to a month sort of idea.
52 divided by 2 is 26.
Good job. Here we are, still a little ways away from our 1 year anniversary, but we're already on number 26.
Ooh, yeah, that's because we're two hard-working dudes, you know?
We are, and we've got a couple other hard-working dudes that help us pull it all off.
That is a really good point.
Kudos to Jake. Obviously, most people know by now he's our audio engineer. He makes us sound good, and then, of course, Matt helps us with a lot of writing. Anyway, here we are, episode 26. Today, what we really wanted to talk about is the idea of self-discipline. I know it's talked about in a million different ways all around the globe, but Kyle and I have both been somewhat challenged over the last couple of weeks and months and inspired to dig in a little bit deeper on this concept and idea of self-discipline. Really not a concept, but the need for self-discipline if you want to hit the goal or accomplish the things that you identify as being important to you. So that's the theme for today's episode. But before we get into the meat, Kyle, what's going on? How are you?
Good, man. I have a story about a really awesome app that I used earlier this week. I used this. Well, I first heard about it on the How I Built This podcast. And I'm sure some of the listeners out there heard the episode about Instacart. And so I heard that it was in my area, and so I decided to try it. I rode my trike home from work, and I was going to go to the store, but then I was like, all right, no. I know there's this thing called Instacart. I downloaded the app, signed in with Facebook, all this stuff, and it's a grocery delivery service. So you use the app, you get to shop at a store near you, as long as they have an Instacart service. So I went through and I ordered a bunch of stuff from this really awesome local grocery store called Wegmans, and you know, when I was riding home and like during the day, I didn't really plan on making the order. So I placed my order like sort of on a whim, just like, all right, I'm going to do this because I don't feel like going to the store. And I placed my order and I didn't realize that I didn't have any cash to tip the delivery guy. So I'm like, oh, shoot. And I'm thinking about it the whole time. So when he comes over, you know, he pulls up and gets the groceries out of his car. Super awesome. And comes in, and I'm like, hey, can you just stick them on the counter over there? He puts them on the counter. And then I didn't realize that you could tip the guy within the app, which I should have just thought of that. But anyway, so he puts the groceries on the counter, and I go, all right, I'll give you a choice. You can have $8 in quarters or 10 euros, because that's all I had. I didn't have any cash with me. So anyway, he's like, well, I don't want to take your quarters if you really need them. I was like, no, next time I'll give you real money. Don't worry. He's like, well, this is real money. So anyway, takes the quarters. And then I looked at my bill later, And there's totally a way that you can tip within the app. Plus, I already paid the guy like $6, whatever. Another 8 was fine because, I mean, he shopped for and brought my groceries to me.
Saves a lot of time, yeah, for
Holy cow,
sure.
it was so awesome. I placed the order and I jumped in the shower and whatever, clean a few things and stuff and just saved so much time and was like relaxing when when he brought the groceries in, and then I just cooked dinner. It was so awesome. So I highly recommend Instacart.
At first, hearing this story, I'm thinking, man, Kyle, you're such a lazy guy. But really, I think it's good to put in perspective for myself and so many other listeners. We got to remind sometimes, or remember, you're in a wheelchair. So just running to the store real quick isn't really real quick. I mean, it takes time for you to get out to the car and then load up yourself, then the chair, and then drive. And everything is just a little more detailed and time-consuming for you. So even though at first in my head I want to make fun of you, I realized, you know what, that quick, for me, what might be a quick 15-minute trip, for you is a quick 48-minute trip or whatever. So, of course, you can get a lot done at home if you're able to take advantage of cool apps like that.
Yeah, well, so first of all, Sean, you never have to feel bad about making fun of me because that's what we do, right? But
Sure.
also, for anybody, going to the store is a pain in the butt. I mean, getting a parking spot, dealing with all these people or whatever. And, any time you can save is so valuable. So, on Instacart, some of the groceries are a little more expensive than what you find in the store. And you have to pay a service charge and all this stuff. But it's worth serious cash to not have to go to the store, so...
Well, I don't know. Some people will tell you the grocery store is where you fall in love. So I don't know if it's really advantageous for you.
Are there things, Sean, that you guys do at your store to make it a better experience for just the people who really don't like going to the store?
No, not really. I mean, we very similar to Wegmans. We pride ourselves on the overall experience, so we do our best to have a pretty presentation, very easy to navigate, and a lot of friendly staff. So I guess in that regard, yeah, we try to make it easy and quick. We have as many check stands open as humanly possible, so nobody's waiting in line for 20 minutes or whatever it may be. But on the side of, finding love at the grocery store, I think we should do what Abercrombie and Fitch does, and that is spray some good smelling colognes as you come into the store, so you're more eager to introduce yourself to a lovely lady.
Yeah, dude, maybe you could spray some pheromones or what is it? Yeah.
Yes. But then everything would smell funny because we're baking cookies and bread and all kinds of amazing goodies inside the store.
Well, maybe don't pitch
we are way off
ideas
track
to the CEO quite yet.
All right, I'm going to save that. Well, anyway, I love your story. Thanks for sharing. It's always fun to hear about new and exciting apps that are out and about and available. In fact, I think it was here that we talked about the first time I used Uber Eats, which it's been around for a little while, but still super cool. The first couple times you get to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and Uber too, and any of these apps.
Well, cool. Like I said in the beginning, really what we want to get into today is talking about self-discipline and the different things we can and maybe want to do to get better at life, to become or more like the man or woman that we value in our life or that we strive to want to be. And I'm reminded of something Drew Dudley said. Recently in fact, he was our last episode, but he talked about not necessarily the idea of becoming somebody different. It's actually being intentional about being who you are today and being more like the person that you strive to be.
Yeah, and a lot of what he said was it's a daily process. Like, you have to think about it every day. In a situation, I don't know if he said it on our episode, but one of the things you hear him say in some of his talks is when you don't know what to do, ask yourself, what would the person I want to be do? And constantly ask yourself that, like, what do I want to do in this situation as the person that I want to be someday?
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. In my day-to-day, I got to think about, especially with summer right behind us, most people go into it wanting to have the summer body. And so oftentimes when it comes to my fitness or my diet, I'm wondering or asking myself, is what I'm about to eat or the gym routine I'm about to skip going to help me get the summer body that I want? And of course, if the answer is no, then typically it's easier to make a decision that's better for you.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I totally agree. It's all those little things, right? Like those little decisions every day that we have to make to commit to whatever we want, right? And that's
Exactly
what this whole self-discipline thing is all about.
So as I was mentioning, a lot of the little things have been challenging Kyle and I and inspiring this topic. A lot of recent episodes, podcast guests, a book, and a speaker. So Kyle, one of the things that kind of helped you get in this train of thought recently is a book that you just read. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So for all the listeners, this was actually a book that Sean turned me on to. There was a guy that spoke at Sean's company, and he was an ex-Navy SEAL. And so this book is about that guy. And another person, this really successful entrepreneur who's always trying different stuff and thinking outside the box, saw this guy, David Goggins. He's an ex-Navy SEAL, and he was running like a ultra marathon, and so the guy goes, I want to talk to that guy. And one of the things I really like about the book is that the guy says, his name's Jesse, and he always says to himself, like, I like that person, I like what they're doing, I'm gonna make them my friend. And so he just like calls up and goes, hey, and his thing was, he asked David Goggins, this ex-Navy SEAL, will you come and live with me for a month and train me? And so the whole book is all about all the stuff they did. And so the one stipulation was, he was like, all right, I'll do this, but there's one thing, you have to do everything I say. And so, like, they do all this I won't ruin it by telling all the crazy stuff they do in this book, but the point is, a lot of it was about self-discipline. Like, just get up and get to it. Go out and run your 10 miles in like 10-degree weather. It was crazy. That was one of the things in the book, is like everything was in the freezing cold because they did it in the winter. And so anyway, I highly recommend this book. I am not a fast reader, but I read this book. It was like 300 pages. I read it in 4 days just because it was so hilarious and just like on par with kind of what I think about and thinking outside the box and doing crazy stuff to improve yourself and really sticking to it. But the whole principle was this thing where it was like, all right, you have to do whatever I say. And Jesse Itzler was the author, and he was like, all right, like, and it was a self discipline thing, I think, too. He had to adhere to somebody else, and he had somebody else making him accountable. But in a few of the thoughts he had internally, it was, all right, I've got to get this done because I committed to this, and so anyway, a lot of it was really about self-discipline and a lot of the stuff he learned.
I think that's a great point. One of the things that Goggins, the subject of the book Beyond Jesse, the author, he talks about the mental toughness required to pursue what's important to you. It's easy for so many of us to take the easy way out sometimes in certain situations. Maybe we don't do it every day, but maybe we choose to skip the gym here or not read the book or, whatever the little thing is that's important to us, we take the easy way out. And I think the message of David Goggins is you got to embrace even the things that are hard to really become the best and fullest version of yourself possible. And Drew mentioned it on our last episode. He referred to the Duke study, the results that came in our Duke, talking about how 40% of what we do every day is really based on habit. It's not even mental toughness. It's just routine. It's not really a decision. It's just unconscious, a part of who we are. Think about it. You wake up and the first thing you do is go to the bathroom. Or you wake up and then brush your teeth. Or wake up and brew your coffee. I don't know what your habit is. But think about your routine every morning. And it's really easy to identify the fact that none of that routine really is on purpose. It's just what we do because we've been doing it for so long. And so, along with the book, with Drew and even Tom Hamilton, talking about different things, what we're really getting at here today is creating the habits that we value the most. And roaming around my workplace right now is this quote by Aristotle that says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." So, of course, obviously, with that in mind, we've got to create the habits that are going to help us get closer and closer to becoming the person we want to be.
Yeah, and it's about breaking out of those unconscious actions, right? Like you said, that Duke study said 40% of the things we do every day are unconscious. What if we reduce that just by like thinking about, all right, what do we want to do? And then all of a sudden we're only doing 20% unconscious actions, and we've gained back a little bit of that percentage. One of the things that sticks out in our conversation with Tom Hamilton that we had a few episodes ago was, and it's something that you and I have talked about a couple times, Sean. There's two reasons people fail. Number one, they don't have a plan. Or number two, they have a plan, but they don't execute the plan. And so, it's about being intentional. And we're talking about self-discipline, like making a plan and sticking to it. I think, about any of these things, deciding what you want out of your day, out of your week, out of your life, and having a plan to get those things and then sticking to that plan. One of the other things that you told me that was in David Goggins' talk when he came and spoke at your company was, he's an ex-Navy SEAL, and one of their mantras for diving was, all right, plan your dive and then dive your plan. So make a plan and stick to it.
Exactly. I think that's true in life. You can replace the word dive with living or life. Plan your life and then live according to that plan. And I know you chuckle when you bring up Tom Hamilton's episode. We both felt like he was talking to us, specifically about this podcast. We had a plan, and here and there we've fallen off track with our plan. So it was definitely a good reminder that we have to be intentional about the actual plan that we have been following along, which again is what we talked about with Drew. You've said it a little bit, I think, just a few minutes ago. It's daily exercising the daily habits to become who you want to be intentional, to make good choices, good decisions, and do things on purpose. Every day we got to wake up and we got to make the decisions that we just got to make. Decisions that are going to help us improve, decisions that are going to help us maintain. In some areas we just got to hit the mark and then worry about other things. It's not like every day has to be hitting the gold medal status, but with family, with relationships, with work, there are just some things you got to do because that's the commitment you made. And one thing that came to mind as we were planning through our talk today, I referenced Jimmy V not too long ago, a very pretty notable basketball coach in his days back in the 80s. One of the things that he had in his locker rooms with his teams was the simple phrase, you plus motivation equals success. And his whole understanding was you're never guaranteed anything, but if you put everything you have into being motivated, going after what's important to you, you're going to find success. You got to work hard, and of course you got to keep yourself motivated. So waking up every day and just having the own energy and the own motivation to accomplish what's important to you, success is going to follow you for sure.
And Sean, you know what? For me, I think one of the hardest things about, making a plan and is defining those things that I want. Defining what my end goal is, because I think we all, I think I know it, but then when it comes down to it, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna write this down. It's like, okay, I have no idea what to write, and I think that's one of the things that Drew talked about last episode was, define the things that, like, everyone says these things, but write them down and define the stuff that you want and how you want to get it done. I think that's the beginning of the thing you said with Jimmy V is that, you've got to be motivated, but you have to be motivated in the right direction. You have to understand what you want, and I think that's the hardest part.
Yep. I think with that in mind, I've got an idea, a challenge for you and I to begin with, and perhaps maybe get our listeners involved if you feel like it. One thing Drew encouraged all of us to do was to write down 30 things that we've learned in life and to reflect on our own wisdom. So, Kyle, got a challenge for you and for me. I think if you and I were to write down 30 days or 30 things and talk about it, we'd have an episode that's entirely too long. So here's my challenge. Over the next 2 weeks, so for episode 27, you and I should come to the table with 5 things each. 5 things that we've learned in life, and of course spend a few minutes reflecting on perhaps what might be labeled our own wisdom in life. How do you feel about that?
I'm totally down. I'm not gonna lie. When Drew said that in our episode, he said, I think everyone should do this. Everyone should write down their 30 things. And I was like, oh no, I've got an assignment now. Like, what am I going to write? And it made me a little nervous. So I am a little nervous right now, even with just 5 things. But we're going to make it happen.
Yeah, we are. And for those of you listening, if you're caught up and you're hearing this before we publish number 27, I encourage you to reach out. Shoot us an email or Facebook. Find us. And if there's 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 30 things you want to share, we'd be happy to share those with the other listeners and get you involved. Of course, we're not limited to just the next 2 weeks. You're welcome to share some of your wisdom with us at all times. So we welcome such feedback. Anyway, I think another thing to note is that this stuff that you write down, all these little things that you've learned, hopefully it inspires other things that you might explore or learn in life. And it's important to realize that a lot of things just don't happen by accident. One of my favorite authors is Matthew Kelly, and he wrote the book The Rhythm of Life, as well as a few others. But in The Rhythm of Life, he actually leads toward the beginning of the book, talking about a bunch of famous or well-known individuals that we've all probably heard of. A couple of them are Tiger Woods, Lance Armstrong, Mother Teresa, a handful of others. But he talks about the habits and the routines in place for those people that help them accomplish what we know them for today. Like, take Tiger Woods, for instance. He didn't just wake up and start winning Masters after Masters. He started playing golf when he was 3 years old and would daily go out and practice and work towards making things happen. So again, to support the idea of creating intentional habits and having the mental toughness to perform one way or another, is this idea of, the practice makes perfect, I guess is an easy way to say it. The more you work at it, the more successful you're going to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and, one thing that Drew said in our last episode, too, was, he was touching on the fact, I think he referenced someone else, but, the idea that it doesn't get easier. Like Tiger Woods, golf never got easier. It's not easier for him. He's just better at it. And so any of these things, just practicing focus on the things you want, that never gets easier. You just get better at it. One of my favorite quotes is from Greg LeMond, and he says, it never gets easier, you just go faster. And he's a, Tour de France winner and just amazing person. And so he's saying, in bike racing, it's a reference there that nothing ever gets easier. You just go a little bit faster when you practice so much.
That's awesome. I love that you shared the quote, and I like that it relates to the cycling world too. So, after all is said and done, I think it's super easy for us to, theorize or just talk about philosophy on everything that we've talked about today. But Kyle, as you and I both know, we talked about it. You gotta put action to your words. So there are a couple things that you and I, well, actually, probably more. There are a million things that you and I each want to get better at. I know, for you probably want to get better at looking good, and you want to get, you want to get better with the ladies and. I saw your picture on Instagram not too long ago, and I think you scared your niece.
Oh yeah,
didn't you? Wasn't it your niece that thought you were some sort of prisoner?
No, her friend thought I was in jail.
Well, anyway, all jokes aside, there are things we want to get better at, and with our 1 year anniversary coming up with the podcast, we got a lot of things brewing. So why don't you give our listeners a glimpse of what's to come?
So we're working on putting together a new website, basically building our site from the ground up. You'll still be able to access all the episodes, but it's going to look and act really sweet, hopefully. And also,
hopefully it makes us look and act speeder.
That would help. We also wanted to kind of put our money where our mouth is. We want to do a couple challenges for each other, and we wanted to make them public so that we're accountable to our actions. We don't want to be hypocrites. And, these two things that we are going to do, they're a little bit like symbolic. It's nothing super crazy life-changing, but it's symbolic of like a commitment to just being better and being more focused and intentional every day. So one of the things that we want to do is it's kind of inspired by the Living with a Seal book. And I don't know if I said it at the beginning when I was talking about the book with David Goggins. It's called Living with a Seal, so check that out. Anyway, my challenge, originally this was my challenge to Sean, and so we're going to do 100 push-ups a day for 30 days, and this is going to start tomorrow. So we're going to track this on the website, and you can take a look at it every day, and the principle is that, we could commit ourselves to this, but it raises the stakes a little bit if you make it public and have a lot more people to be accountable to. So 100 push-ups a day for 30 days.
This is the 2DD push-up challenge, and I'm looking forward to maybe getting some bigger shoulders and chest muscles at the end. I think, like you said, it's easy to talk about, and we probably all want a better this or better that, especially for, dudes. We want bigger chest muscles, whatever it may be. And like I said, it's just easier to execute your plan when a bunch of people are staring at you, waiting for you to do so. So I don't know if everybody's staring at us, waiting for us to do our push-ups, but knowing that we have a layer of accountability, I'll certainly get my 100 push-ups done every day.
All right,
without
Bring it
question.
On. Let's do it.
All right, starting tomorrow, 100 push-ups. Obviously, this is in our 1 day period, so if you want to join us, you're welcome to. The expectation isn't for you to do 100 push-ups
in a row
at once.
Yeah.
The expectation is 100 push-ups in a day. So if that's doing 25 times or whatever, 10 times, whatever you can do, the idea is to build up to 100 push-ups before you call it a day and go to bed. All right. Then next up, we have another challenge. We would like to do the 2DD food log. And this one might be a little more personal, but as you remember, if you've been listening, we had Liz Applegate on the show who gave us some nutritional tips. And then Rudy Garcia, the Paralympian, challenged us to treat our bodies like Ferraris so that we get the performance we want to see. And so, in an effort to make better decisions in our nutritional intake, Kyle and I would like to go public with our consumption of food. So, also starting, are we starting this tomorrow? When does this one start, Kyle?
Yeah, tomorrow for 30 days.
Everything starts tomorrow. All right. So, yeah, we won't bore you and do it forever, but for the next 30 days, we're going to go public with what we're eating, and there are a couple different apps that we're exploring, so we'll find a way to make it easy for folks to take a look if they want. Obviously, this isn't necessarily for you to look at all the details, but at the very least, it helps Kyle and I hold each other accountable to making healthier decisions in our life.
And, we both travel a lot. And so I think this challenge is going to be specifically challenging for when you're on the road and it's like, you know what? I really don't care what I eat right now. I'm so hungry that I'll eat anything. So, I think that this challenge is going to be important for me. You're going to think twice or three times every time you go to make a food decision because you know that, or we can imagine at least that a bunch of people are going to know and are counting on us to make good decisions.
Totally. It just happened maybe a month ago, 5 weeks ago. One of an FA friend of ours was in town. She also listens to the podcast, but I met her and some of her coworkers for dinner. A really cool spot, bunch of appetizers and dinner available during this meal. And I'm sitting there talking about how important nutrition is sometimes, and we're all kind of talking about dieting. And in the meantime, I'm stuffing my face with the pizza and French fries, and they're all looking at me like, "Are you serious?"
You just talked about diet, and now you're being a hypocrite.
But up until now, I've allowed myself pretty much 1 or 2 days of not really having to follow a strict routine, but now that I know you and maybe a handful of others can look at my food log, I might think twice about my cheat days. Maybe I'll narrow it down to one cheat meal, if any.
All right, so that's the plan. 100 push-ups a day for 30 days and write down everything we're eating for 30 days. Those are a couple of small symbolic things that we're going to do to keep our self-discipline in check. And so let's do it.
Awesome. Well, like Kyle said, we're working on building a new website and rolling out some different things involving our podcast since we're reaching that 1 year mark. First of all, thank you so much for listening, for writing reviews, for encouraging us, and for being a part of the journey we're on. We're excited to continue going. And with our new website and different things going on, different things brewing, we're working on ways to implement your participation as well. So prepare yourself now. Start those push-ups. Start making healthier choices if that's important to you. And like always, feel free to reach out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or the website. We are excited to continue the journey with you. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of the show with us.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Find us online at twodisableddudes.com. And please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts.
We'd like to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our audio producer, Jake Tompkins, who also composed the music.
Until next time, keep living with urgency.